One's usually there to protect the other. So how I came up as a bookmaker. That's how I was brought in. I was brought in at 14 years old. I was answering phones at an office at a satellite office that had to do with Nicky Carrazzo, but Nicky Carrazzo didn't know I worked for him. Getting back to those guys, they made their kids go legit. Jojo, both his sons were lawyers. You know what I mean? Why not? So there's guys that did do that. But so I came up that way, and I learned the business. And I had, he had no idea I was working for him. He had no idea that, he had no idea I was working for him. I had no idea that I was working for him or anybody else for that matter. And they taught me the ropes. And that's how I was brought in. And it was bookmaking, Shylocking, and I got to deal with other families, with other guys within other crews, with never knowing or having a clue who the next person was that I was giving the money to, or where it was going, or if I took action at a certain bar, 50% of that action had to go to the Bananas. 50% of that action had to go to the Gambinos, as did when I got older and the guys in my crew got involved in strip clubs. It happened to be the strip clubs they got involved in. The girls belonged to the Bananas, but the guys that ran the bar belonged to the Gambinos. So we had to split them.
So what Hootie, so going on to you, I mean, what dealings did you have with the Colombo family? Besides, that you were talking about right now, did you have any others?
I was very tight with a lot of the Colombo guys. I remember when I was looking for work and I was part of Local 79, and they had grandfathered in for years and years and years, generations. They had local, was it 7A or 6A, the concrete union? And they offered me a position. And usually if you're not with that crew or with that family, that doesn't happen. And I wind up making a lot of friends with them. And I wind up selling drugs with a lot of them. And I got close with one of them in jail at the time, who was Frankie Blue Eyes. He was a Colombo guy that used to put a lot of work in them. He was a handout, he was a shooter. And he was, Uncle Teddy's attack dog. And over the years, it was hard not to. Again, when you grow up in these neighborhoods and your neighbor's this person and your neighbor's that person, and Carmine Cesar, who was very well known throughout Brooklyn, driving around during the war like there was nothing going on, was very well known. And there was, cousins and nephews, and it was hard not to miss. And we had a very powerful captain in my neighborhood who ran like all the sports and little leagues, and I had kids and god kids, and my kids all played in that. And, if I missed deadline, he'd take care of me. He'd make sure he always put my name on the list. And I'd give him football sheet money, meaning they used to have sheets. I don't know if they still do it. And, 3 out of 3, you get 10 to 1, 5 out of 5, yeah. Guys hit 12 out of 12. So I know guys that were millionaires off of doing football sheets. And that's how I actually started making money, was with football sheets. And I taught him 25% of a football sheet for a whole season of football season, and things like that. And it was if the captain and my crew found out, I'd have to ask for forgiveness because I would never ask for permission. I'd be mad at first. Throw him a little something extra to be forgotten about because they didn't like that. Maybe they had a hard on for that part of the Colombo family. Right. Then you got to remember, I got along very well with Tall Guy. Now, Tall Guy, there's 2 of them. One was a Gambino, and the other one wound up becoming a Colombo because supposedly Sammy had his father whacked. Eddie, Tall Guy Eddie. One was a Gambino, and his father, they were the concrete guys. He wound up opening a trucking company, and he employed all of the Colombos. And he was a stand-up guy, and he was a tough guy. And I got along very well with him. We had a poker game together. We played poker all the time. We played Texas Hold'em. And so things like that. It's hard not to. If like I run out of my house and I throw a rock, I'm going to hit somebody from the other 4 families in the head with it. It's just the way it was where I grew up.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. This clip came from one of my interviews I did in the past. Please hit subscribe if you want to get more clips like this. Also, if you want to watch the full interview, I'll put a link in the description. Or you can hit the button on the screen to watch the full interview.